funny friends, my funny friends, my funny friends now. My funny friends, my funny friends, my funny friends now.
Starring Drew Harrison and Will Abeles.
And we are back for another edition, episode, chronicle,
Wow.
reincarnation
Wow.
of My Funny Friends. I'm one half of your hosting duo, Drew Harrison, as joined by my lovely co-host, because he's back.
I'm back.
He missed us last week, but he resolved his tum-tum issues. Mr. Will Abeles. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Hi, bud. I can tell you've been painting Mr. Bob Ross.
Yeah. Wow, I'm just relaxed.
You're painting. I can tell you're painting too much. I know this is how you talk to yourself, and you're like, and I'm just gonna add a little tree right there.
You got to. That's the only way to get through it.
Add a little mountain right here in the background.
That's my therapy, man. People go to therapy. I watch Bob Ross.
Yeah, I think that's what most people. I think that's what most people do. That's why the country's in the situation that it is.
Are you saying I'm part of the problem?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not.
That's fair.
Probably not.
Well, how you been doing, man? We missed you last week.
I know. I've been good.
Episode.
Been doing the road. That's pretty much it. Just doing the road. Yeah.
Good. About to head out on myself for a weekend.
Yeah, where are you going?
I'm going to Virginia Beach.
Oh, right. That's that trip.
I'm in the Funny Bone with Mr. Slay.
There you go. That's going to be fun.
Shout out to podcast favorite Dusty Slay. Recorded his album, so I'm excited to see what he does with that. So yeah, I've just been doing the shows too, man, trying to hang out. I've actually had some freelance graphic work lately, so I've been that's what I've been doing. I've painted a little bit, but I've been actually having fun doing some graphics and stuff. So
well, that's good.
That's why I'm in a good mood.
Yeah, I can tell.
Creative.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna.
Lovely day here in Nashville. How can you not be happy?
It is nice out. I was just driving for Uber Eats, and
well, that's a way to ruin a good day. For sure.
It was a way to ruin it. I felt bad. I had to deliver alcohol to a lady who did not look great when I got there because it was 10:30 in the morning.
Oof. Okay.
And she didn't have an ID. Couldn't find it anywhere. And I had to then drive the alcohol back to the liquor store. And
she didn't have her ID.
She didn't have her ID.
Could that be a trap? Could that have been a trap for you to see if you were like doing what you needed to do?
No, I think she was like a genuinely unwell person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did she freak out on you?
No, she was like, I guess it's happened before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because she was just like, I don't know, sometimes they just let me send a picture. And I was like, I don't have, I was like, you don't have a passport, you don't have anything? And she was like, no. And I was
so like, how do you have a picture?
I don't know. And so
she's like, I'm going to lose this. Let me go ahead and take a picture.
Yeah. And so then I had to call the Uber Eats hotline, and they were very confused. And I was like, what is happening?
Am I doing what y'all want? What do I tell me what to do, people? Please tell me what.
Yeah. And then I went to Walmart and I picked up propane for an upcoming camping trip. I'm doing. Yeah.
You going camping?
Going on that's the thing. So in 2 weeks I am gone for like maybe like 18, 19 days where me and my girlfriend are just hitting the road. Not comedy related.
Is this something you have to do as an Eagle Scout? Like every few years you have to go on
you have to just go to Montana, disappear, and then pray you come out. And that's the trip.
Hadn't there been a lot of bear attacks? They're the bears. Is that
we got bear spray?
You got bear spray?
We got bear spray. And then that's it. That's all we got.
How much more potent is bear spray than like people mace?
I don't know. That'd be worth a quick Google. Although, we had the whole thing about the espresso versus coffee,
and someone let us know.
So we did get a response. So if you know the difference between
that's our followers' question for the day. What's the difference?
between bear spray and human mace.
Let us
I
know.
imagine it's probably pretty similar. I feel like they're both probably pretty strong.
I feel like they just put a lot more pepper in it. Put some more pepper in it.
Sure, Drew. How do we keep this grizzly bear from killing humans? Let's add a little more pepper.
Pepper.
Yeah. Everyone knows what was the Zach Galifianakis line where he's like, tigers hate cinnamon or whatever it was?
Tigers love pepper. Because he puts the pepper and salt on the. He's like, tigers love pepper.
They hate cinnamon. Yeah.
Come on, man. Everyone knows that.
Drew's bear spray now with more pepper.
Just today, I wanted to talk about the way the world is. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and I don't know how anyone can be funny, but we're all out here trying. So I thought it'd be fun to get our good buddy Ben Sawyer on to talk about the state of the world and finding the funny in it, because this dude knows more about history and the current world than anyone I know. So I thought he would be our guest expert on that. If someone were to ask what, like, me to describe Ben Sawyer, I'd be like, he knows the world is pure shit and he still has a smile on his face. So he's a professor, he's a great friend, he's a fantastic comic, and he is also a podcaster himself. He is co-host of The Road to Now. Ben Sawyer, everybody.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, thanks for being here.
Start off by saying that, like, why do I have a smile on my face? Yeah, I can recognize that the world is falling to shit, but there's a difference between what is and what could be. The smile is what could be.
Okay, see?
Oh wow!
I knew you.
Look at this start,
right?
That's the best intro you've ever given.
Are we freaking you out with our positivity yet, Will?
Oh yeah, no, I'm in my insides. I'm screaming.
Yeah. You better put on a corset, dude, because you know, this is my problem with like comedy, is that like I write jokes about I've been writing a lot of material about like the worst shit. And like you bring up the premise and people are like, oh,
here we go.
I'm like, but look, it'll be fun. They're like, no, why would you even bring that up? You know?
They don't even give you a chance these days sometimes. That's what sucks. Like, let me make it funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's on me too, isn't it? Maybe I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that was a huge shift though too, wasn't that? Like around like I feel like it was the 2016 election. That was when it was like everyone stopped laughing at like very dark stuff.
All lost. I'm a big pro wrestler fan, and everyone in the pro wrestling world laughs about Shawn Michaels. He had to go away to rehab, but they didn't want to say that on TV. So they made him come on TV, and he said he lost his smile and he had to go find it. So in 2016, you're saying America lost their smile.
America lost their smile. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's just weird. It's you know, it's like I keep on saying with these elections. It's like, you know, it's the same people that were there like the day before the election were there the day after.
Yeah. But I was in New York, and I remember just like
have so much more hate.
Yeah, brag. You were in New. Oh, was Will in New York? This is great. Welcome to this podcast where Will tells us all he was in New York. Go ahead. Sorry. Am I hosting now?
Yeah, it's all yours. I'll see you guys later. Enjoy. I'm gonna get myself food poisoning again.
Did Blair get to him too?
Oh my god. We're not going back. I feel like Blair comes up once an episode, or
we have to. I gotta check it off. There's our Blair Postman reference for the week.
For the week. But no, I just remember like going to mics like the next week after, 2 weeks after, and it was just like, is anything funny? Are we gonna find anything funny anymore? You know, and they eventually came back, you know, but
how about all those people that kept on being like, man, you comics gotta love Trump, huh? He's just churning out material for you. Like, God.
Someone said that to me at a show a couple weeks ago, and I was with Corey Knox, and they came up and they're like, didn't you think Trump was good for comedy? And like before I could even think about a response, Corey was like, Trump was the worst thing that ever happened to comedy. And like he had like a whole thing prepared and like went down gave the guy the response that Corey had clearly rehearsed, you know, like he was ready for that question.
Like, I was ready for someone to say
that. Yeah.
Well, dude, I think Tom Nichols, who's like one of the guys in the Lincoln Project, I don't even know them, like the Republicans that tried to like, they went after Trump. And he wrote a book called The End of Expertise. But like he was saying, I think we had him on the podcast maybe 2020 in Road to Now, and he was just like, yeah, Trump just gave all these like perpetual adolescent boys that like don't take on any responsibility for themselves and think the world should be theirs. He just gave them permission to keep doing it.
Oh, right? I got on the wrong side.
It just made fragility. Like it made fragility something that like you could just wear it out now. And it was like it used to be like all of us men. You remember growing up as like a young boy, you're just like terrified all the time that someone's gonna figure out, I don't know, that like you put your shirt on backwards earlier this morning. You didn't even leave the house, but you're just like, what if they find out? Right? They find out you like a girl or something. Like, we used to suck that shit and keep it inside. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I miss
now
those
we
days.
can whine. Trump gave us permission to whine, and then now everybody's whining at each other. You can't make jokes.
Yeah. And now everyone's just in a bad mood because they're listening to everyone else's whining all the time.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
Welcome back to My Funny Friends.
Yeah.
I'm not whining about people whining. That might be
yeah. Ben, were you a professor or a comedian first?
Professor.
And then, so did you start comedy later? Like, what got you into comedy?
Which one did I do first? Okay, so like I've been teaching at the college level. Like, I mean, honestly, it's like 20 years. I'm 44. Like I first started teaching, I was like 23 as like a teaching assistant at App State.
Okay.
I did it for a very long time before I started doing stand up.
Okay. What pulled you in? Did you need like a break from teaching college age kids or like?
No. So like I taught while I was in grad. I did like a master's degree at App State and was an assistant there. And then I took a year off. I used to be a carpenter too. So like I built houses for a while full time after I graduated college. And then I went and got a master's degree, took a year off and built a log cabin with a guy up in the Appalachian Mountains. Then went to grad school. But by the time I got to the end of grad school, I had been doing research like on grants and stuff like that for a couple of years. So I hadn't taught in a while. But what really got me into it was like living in Moscow. In
smooth transition.
Yeah, I know. It's doesn't make any sense, but so I just was I love sitcoms. I love sitcoms. Like Tina Fey is like my like all around comedy like hero number one, right? Like I just and
big 30 Rock fan,
like with Community. I love sitcoms.
Yeah.
And so I started telling stories. Like it was funny because I'm from the country. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm from poor white stock in rural North Carolina. Shout out North Carolina, Drew.
Yeah.
So like
it's a North Carolina podcast. It really is.
It's great. And New York, Will, don't forget about that.
Thank you.
But no, but it's like it's weird because I just decided I was like, you know what? I could, you know, for some reason in my head, it was possible for me to be doing what I was doing, which was be like a dude from the rural South, like who was living in Moscow on a Fulbright grant, you know, like doing research. But like the idea that I could do comedy never even crossed my mind, right? It just goes to something somebody else does. And long story short, I just started telling stories. There aren't a whole lot of people that talk like me in those worlds. So people would like listen when I told a story. It's like the stereotype worked. They were like, "Ooh, what's this?"
And this is still in Moscow.
To say to us, huh?
Is this still in Moscow?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm hanging out with people from like the top universities and like diplomats and stuff like that. But like
that's crazy.
Start telling stories, and then I was like, "Huh, maybe I could." It kind of got in my head. But then one of my friends, Katie Holt, who was doing like her PhD at Columbia, her husband came to visit. A guy named Rafe Larson. We went to a soccer match together.
That's a great name.
I was just like, "What do you do, man?" He goes, "I'm a novelist." He lives in New York City. He's a novelist, and like, I know that's like 80% of people in New York will tell you they're novelists.
Yeah. I'm a novelist.
So like, but here's the thing: I'd never met anybody who said that before.
Yeah.
And I just went, "You could do that?" Like, and then I was like, "Well, I can write a sitcom." Now the difference is this: I did finish the pilot last year. Who knows what's going to happen with it? Rafe Larson is an actual novelist,
writer. Yeah,
his like first book was like, I think he sold it for like $1.5 million, and it was made into a film starring like Helen Bonham Carter. He's a real novelist, so I don't.
Well, he seemed more legit to me because he said novelist and not writer.
Yeah, so he's amazing. But like that just kind of was like, So I got a bunch of books, started reading them to write sitcoms. I didn't know how to do that, and they all said different things, but one thing that like all of them agreed on was like you should do stand up for a year to learn brevity and punch and voice, like immediate feedback. And so when I moved from Moscow to like Southern California, I just started going out in LA, and did that for a couple months before I moved to Nashville. And that year has turned into like 10, 11. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were doing open mics in LA or just in Southern California?
In LA. That's where I started.
Oh, wow.
That's
I remember.
crazy.
Yeah.
Moscow to LA to Nashville.
Yeah. Don't
Did
forget
you
Mount Pleasant, North Carolina. Shout out Cabarrus County.
Of course. I would
Did you ever have a moment in LA where you were like trying to make like Moscow references? Be like, like the 2-for-1 vodka shots down in like saying some Russian bar.
Oh, well.
Or how was that transition?
Well, it's not that bad because both of them are like inhabited by some of the richest people in the world. And you might have grant money or whatever you've got, but it ain't that level of money.
Yeah.
I mean, both places are places where you should be walking. Somebody drives by in like a $500,000 car. Like you just go, that's what happens here.
Yeah, that's just normal.
Yeah, but the weather was better in LA. Honestly, a lot better.
I can imagine.
Surprising. Yeah, I've never heard that.
Vodka not as good though.
Yeah, no, that's true. The Russians are good at vodka.
Yeah,
they're good at it. Although somehow Tito's matches up.
Wow,
it's Tito's, man. There's a running joke in Wilmington that every bar has their version of a sign behind the bar that says, "If you come down here and order a Tito's and vodka, you will get a Tito's and vodka." Because these drunk college girls be like, "Can I have a Tito's and vodka, please?" And they're like, "Okay, enough of y'all have ordered this. We're actually going to start giving that to you."
What did they put like well vodka on top of Tito's?
Yeah, I mean, if you're dumb enough to not know the difference between a vodka and a Tito's and soda and a Tito's and vodka.
So they're talking about vodka like Kleenex, where they're like it's actually a brand name and they just think it's anything.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess they thought Tito's was the soda part. I don't know.
Is it a Pat Ball thing?
Pat Ball did probably come up with the first sign for
that.
Sure.
If you told me that, I completely believe it. What did he do when we went down to Wilmington? When I was just sitting there like on my last drink and was like, I need to go home.
You were fading, and you had a whiskey and Coke on the bar, and James Bond stealth mode style came up behind the bar and poured vodka on top of it, and you just see him
and then disappeared, and then that
3:30 in the morning. Like, who knows?
That's like how it's not exactly like that, but like that's roughly how every Wilmington story I have.
See, you're a North Carolina guy, you know.
Yeah, Wilmington is it's another level. It really is.
Yeah.
So you got to
also home of the only actual coup in American history. There you go.
Oh yeah, is
that true?
You hadn't seen Wilmington on fire.
1898.
Grab some Kleenex and watch it.
Majority black city council.
It was a very progressive city for the time, and old rich white people were like, no.
Wait, isn't that sign like right outside of Dead Crow? Like, isn't that around that area?
Like it's right up the street.
Yeah, like the historical signs. You know, you see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I did know that.
Yeah.
That was the city's. That was the city's sorry, is they built a monument. They're like, oh yeah,
and a damn good comedy club.
There you go.
That's it. Right on top of the graveyard. Right on top of where they did it. They go, hey, we're going to say we're sorry about laughter. All right.
Laughter. We're going to
don't make them forget this. Kyle Kinane's sweet prose.
Oh, man. Yeah. He just got announced for Dead Crow. That's awesome.
I know. It's going to be so great.
So how was the switch from doing stand up in LA to Nashville?
Well, like I was doing it like maybe like twice a week in LA, and then that's about as much as you could do it when I moved here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I only did it for like 3 months.
Okay.
In LA, because we moved back from Moscow like that summer, and then got settled in up in Big Bear Lake. Like basically, my wife's from Long Beach, but they like her family, like all the family, have like a little cabin up in Big Bear Lake. We just stayed there because we were writing, didn't need to be anywhere. So
yeah.
I had this is what's crazy is like, I think, so LA, like every story just about people know about it from somebody they know is coming from somebody who lived there and moved back.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's a very selective, it's a very biased data set, right? Where people are just like, hey, it's fucking horrible out there. Or people who show up in one of the largest stand-up comedy scenes in America that also happens to be packed full of people trying to act.
Yeah.
And then they're like, they go out there for a week and they're like, man, it sucked. Like nobody like, I couldn't get up and like, yeah, dude. A guy named Pat Riley, not the coach, but he's used to do Goods from the Woods with Rivers Langley. He wrote his
Okay.
entire dissertation on his sociology dissertation on the stand-up comedy scene in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And it's amazing. I did a whole sit-down conversation with him for the podcast.
Yeah.
His field work was going and doing shows and mics for like 4 years.
Wow.
And so like he said that like in the LA comedy, he's like there's some he compared it to some societies like in the Amazon areas, places where life is really fragile, where like you don't name the baby for the first year, right?
Mhm.
You don't go wasting a name on that baby. We'll see if it's here in a year. And he said that that's kind of like don't expect anybody to know your name in the LA scene if you haven't been there for a year because they've seen enough people come and go.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we invested with you. We don't know if we're gonna be here in 3 months.
Yeah, I've only ever done a handful of shows in LA, but I really don't see the same people twice for the most part. Like besides like my friends that I'm out there to see, but like I would like do mics for a week or something, and I would just never see the same people from like the last time I was there, or even from like the night before.
Yeah, and there's circles that people run in because basically like because my wife and I are both professors, and her mom still like lives in the same house in Long Beach they grew up in. It's just her. Like we spend a month in LA every summer. Like we are in Long Beach, which I
Mhm.
spend a lot of time in LA. So like I know people out there. Like Carter's out there now. Carter Glasscock, Rivers
Mhm.
Langley's a
Very
good friend
funny.
of mine. Just go out there and catch up with folks. And so like there's scenes that people run in where you kind of will. But
Yeah.
back to like the question of LA, I had a great time the first couple mics I went out. I went out and did. It's funny because I went out. There's such an anti-paying to do a mic thing. There's places that'll be like $5 to do a mic,
Right.
but then you get a Coke with it. And I'm like, as much as I would love for this place to be able to pay its bills with our hopes and dreams and mediocre talent,
You understand this a
the
bit.
idea that they would be like, hey, you get a drink with it, but like you got to pay $5. We got to make sure we can cover it. That never bothered me. Still
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I went to like some of the mics that people later on were like, oh, those are the worst. And I had a blast. Like, I had a really good time out there the first couple months I did it. And people were nice, like, in a way that I have yet to see again in LA. Where, like, people were like, you're new? Like,
You had a nice little moment in time there.
yeah. So then I moved out here, and the scene was nothing when I moved out here. I mean, there was like Gary Fletcher was running a mic on Mondays. There's Spanky's mic on Tuesdays. So this is 2013. It's January 2013.
Wow.
Okay.
That's
Sean Parrott ran a mic at the at Springwater the first Wednesday,
okay.
which is the first one I ever did. Was that
Springwater?
January 2013?
what was it like back then? Because I know they tried to bring it back and it just didn't quite take.
Was Springwater?
You felt
Yeah.
hated in that place when the few times I did.
Except for the bartender. Honestly, like the bartender always seemed to be attentive and like kind of enjoyed it, but it was just everyone else there was like, why are you guys doing this to us?
Yeah, it was fun. All right, so like the thing
Yeah.
was that at that time there weren't that many people doing stand-up comedy in Nashville.
Right.
But it was not like now you can't throw a stick without hitting a place that's probably got somebody who's mad because they've been doing comedy for 3 months and nobody's realized how smart they are, so they're funny they are, so they're running their own show now. At Bobby's Tire World Wednesdays at 5:45 to 6:15. But like back then, it was like everybody showed up for every mic because you had to get up every chance you could, and there was
Sure.
like your best week you were going to get 3 times.
Yeah.
Chad Ryan started Mike on Thursdays. And so like that's what it was like. And man, I'll tell you, the scene here was incredible because there were so many funny people.
Mm-hmm.
It almost seems surreal. And just like the talent. And I remember it's like being like, I really think like 2 or 3 years in being like, I'm pretty sure that Laura Peak's one of the funniest people I've ever seen, like a year into it. Right?
Sure.
And being
Agree
like,
with you on that one.
I'm like, but I also think that about Aaron Weber.
I agree with you on that one.
And Josh Wagner, who,
Yeah.
But I wish he was back at it. But, and then you just see all these people coming out and you're just like, are they? And then Dusty was through here. Dusty moved here like a year after I did, I think. And you're like, I think, and you're just like, what are the odds?
Yeah.
And he's like, they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, look at them.
Yeah.
Look where they are right now. So
Yeah, so it was like Gary Fletcher was a riot, right? I mean, there's still like consistently funny people who are around from there then. Josh Lewis, and Sean Parrott,
Mark
Cantrell's been coming out again. He kind of showed up new those points. So it was a lot smaller and it was a lot tighter. I apologize if I forgot anybody.
was Mr. Nunson in that. He made our theme music. Can't leave him out. Mark Nunson.
Mark Nunson, yeah, Mark Nunson's Institute. Yeah. Renard, Mike
Oh,
James,
Bernard
all
was
those
around
guys
back then. Wow.
who were already established and funny by the time. Monty Mitchell, right? They were already.
Monty's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool. And then the one difference was like, Nate Bargatze's around a lot now, things, but like back then it was Ralphie May.
Ralphie May was around a lot.
Yeah, he lived right near. He lived in 12 South over near
What?
Zanies. Yeah.
God, I moved
Ralphie
here
was
way
always hanging
too
out
late,
there.
man. Ralphie was one of my favorites.
Ralphie was one of the best dudes on earth.
Yeah.
And that dude, I mean, all right, can I tell my Ralphie story?
Please.
Sure.
Because I mean, I feel like I still watch his reels. And
I didn't know how prevalent he was in Nashville though. That is so.
Oh yeah, he
awesome
lived right
to
the
hear.
street. He'd drop in, and like the thing was, Ralphie would show up like the once every 4 to 6 months or whatever, when there was any type of a show where anybody but like touring comics could get on stage, or like one of the 3 people they ever had host. Like Ralphie would show up, and if people were funny, like a year in, he would take them on the road. He'd just be like, "You want to come on the road?"
Didn't
and
he
like,
do that with B-Cove? Weren't he and
I think he did it with B-Cove. He did Mike James. Rocky Dale Davis was kind of the last guy he did that with, although he met him somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so basically, like you're coming from a town where you got like 3. If you're new, right, you're a year in at that point. You got like 3 nights a week. Maybe you can get up. Right. This is like kind of right when Lucy Sensheimer moved here, and Lucy changed everything. Lucy made it where you get on stage there. Lucy made it where there was some type of a path. And actually she took a lot of the raw material here and built it into what it is now. I mean, you can't do it without the talent, but
yeah.
So this is before all that.
I'd have direction though.
Yeah. So anyway, Ralphie would just take somebody out on the road with him, and you would go out and take them out on the road for 6 months, and they'd get 3 years worth of stage time what they would have got in Nashville.
Yeah.
And he did. So my game show, Perfect Timing, currently third Saturdays at Third Coast Comedy Club. We started out at Eastern for a year, and then we did it at Zanies for 2 years, and we were on Vince Vaughn's Wild West Festival in 2016. I've been doing comedy for like 2.5 years, and I hustled my way on that festival. And Brian and Andrew booked like all these festival comics on it, and it was a blast. And Ralphie was on it, and he was. I mean, like everybody went all in. It was a great show. And then
it's what you see. You can see your baby in like professional hands. Like for the first time. Yes. It's crazy.
Exactly.
I did because we do Stone Cold Sober, and we got to do it at a festival one time, and to see traveling comedians do what you wanted this show to do the whole time.
Yeah.
And at the time it was a different show, but we did it like we do it now. So it was like Jeff Tate and John Reap and Ralphie were a team. Jeff Tate, Sarah Tiana,
dream team.
And so it was like great. But the point was, it's like that was fun. But more than anything, the thing about Ralphie was he was kind to everybody. Like he was the funniest person in the world, but he was so nice. And I'll never forget, like realizing I don't belong at this festival. I know Doug Benson got sick, and I had been hustling enough. They were like, we'll give you the Monday night spot on the festival, because I just like signed a deal to do it at Zanies. So anyway, I was going to the after parties and stuff, and but dude, that weekend, Ralphie had a big barbecue at his house, and he invited me over. And it was like, I don't like, dude, if you would have looked around the room and been like, that guy doesn't belong here, right? Because it was like all the comics from the festival. And this is what I love about Ralphie. There's some people who like never lose that empathy of what it's like to feel like, even though Ralphie was like, at this point, legend.
Yeah.
Never forget what it's like to know what it feels like to be a fish out of water. And I walked in. I was smoking like a Camacho cigar, $10 cigar or whatever, put it on the side of the stoop. I walk in, and of course I'm kind of like, hey, and Ralphie goes, Ben Sawyer, it's good to see you. He goes, throw that cheap motherfucker away. He's like, we'll get you some good cigars. And he got the dude, he goes to the guy, like his assistant goes, go upstairs and get the humidor. And he's doing this like basically in front of everybody to be like, this guy's welcome.
Yeah.
And
like he's with me. Don't mess with him.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like one of the most fun weekends ever. Then I did Kill Tony, where he was one of the panelists. It was awesome. And dude, that's basically, I saw Ralphie like a couple of times after that. Like he was always kind, always would like support shows and stuff like that. Yeah. But when he passed away, like my people who knew me, like knew that I had done that with him. They asked me like, what did I think about Ralphie passing away and everything. And I was like, he's the nicest person in the world. I was like, if you go, I was like, go to Twitter and type in hashtag RIP Ralphie. I was like, you're going to see every comic you've ever heard of talking about how great he is. Like, but don't stop there. Keep scrolling, because it's like hundreds of other comics who, like, you know, one time, like with me, right? We weren't buddies. Like, he was just kind to me. And you just pages of people being like, pictures with Ralphie, man. He picked me up. I was struggling. He told me these jokes were good. That was the guy. So it's a Nashville comedy podcast. I've turned it into a Nashville history podcast. I will always be grateful to Ralphie for being kind to me like that. And
I reached out to him when I was going to go on stage for the first time.
Yeah,
on just Twitter.
Like, don't do it.
Yeah, he's like, don't ever do it. He's like, no, he's like, just have fun. I was like, he didn't have to spend time out of his day to reply to someone who hadn't even ever been on stage before.
That's it, man.
And I still got that tweet saved. You know, I'll always check that.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my breakdown of Nashville comedy circa 2013, baby.
I like it. I like it, man.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't know that many people were like, because almost every name you said I know now, you know, but I didn't realize that was who was around at that time.
The start.
Yeah, well, I brought up the ones you've heard of. I didn't bring up the other ones that you. A lot of people have come and gone.
Yeah,
Isn't it fun when you've been doing comedy long enough that you know people that have just stopped?
Just
like
stopped. Yeah.
Like even people are like, they're gonna make it, and you're like, oh, they don't even do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I ran into Josh Wagner. He's up in Louisville now. I ran up into him a couple months ago when I was doing a show.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, because I saw him at your show actually for the first time maybe a year ago, more than that.
It was like 2 years ago.
Maybe was that 2 years ago? Yeah. Okay. Actually, it was. Yeah, you're right. It was 2 years ago.
Years.
And I remember watching him, and he was just so electric, and he was so funny. And so when I saw him in Louisville, I was like, you guys know who this is? You know, I was like, you know how funny this guy is? And so that was my starstruck moment, was seeing him in Louisville.
2015, I think it was. Like, again, this was like when I think Nate had just first moved back, maybe 2016. I can't remember. But I remember Wagner. So Mark Maron hit up Nate Bargatze and was like, "Hey, you want to open for me at TPAC?" And Nate was like, "I can't. I'm out of town." And then he goes, and Nate was like, "You should book Josh Wagner."
Oh wow!
And like put him in. He opened for him and like crushed. And
oh, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Did you see him at TPAC this time around?
Who?
Marin.
No, I did not. Was it good?
Yeah, well, Drew and I went.
I had a panic attack, but yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, Drew.
You have a panic attack.
He's just talking about doom and gloom.
Very doom and gloom.
That's funny, man. I gotta say, I like this podcast. I never thought his comedy was funny.
Yeah.
And then it's like maybe 4 years ago. Good Lord, I can't remember when it was. Years ago, I was in LA and did the Belly Room on Saturday night, and he came in, you know, because they book like comics, like, you know, like
right,
that are up and coming comics on it, but it's basically like it's a circuit, right? In the Comedy Store, like people, you can go there and do 3 sets in like 2 hours, right?
Right.
And I walked in, and I had never thought his comedy was funny, and he killed. It was amazing, and I thought I should rewatch his comedy, and I don't know if it was just I don't remember his material.
Yeah.
But I remember it was like legit some of the funniest stuff I'd heard in a long time. And then I like never heard that again. So I guess somebody was like, that's not really you. Don't do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the set. It was definitely like doom and gloom. And then kind of sort of the point is we're talking about today is like he did find a lot of humor in darkness, which is something I don't think I can really do. Like I can't really hone in on that. Yeah. So for like, I always enjoy watching comics doing something that I could never do. You know, and he did a lot of that stuff. And also Chad, who I thought was in Arizona or New Mexico or whatever, like towards the end of the whole thing,
conversation with this,
like out of the blue, Marin just was like, "Chad, what was that guy's name?" And then this guy in the audience, Chad, starts talking. I'm like, "Is that Chad Ryden? Like, is Chad back?" And then Chad just starts having a conversation in the middle of the show.
I remember when I moved here before, like barely anybody heard of Marin, like.
Yeah,
one of Marin's books or whatever, he talks about him and Chad eating hot, like
hot wing or hot chicken or something, right? Yeah,
because Chad was like Danny started like Yazoo Brewing Company, where I host this show. Like one of the reasons I love that place is because they sponsored like a local showcase for a couple times. Kind of.
That was the first show I ever got to see in Nashville. Was Yazoo Presents at Zany's.
Yeah, comedy out the Yazoo show, and so they were really cool about that. But the other way was Chad Ryden. They would, because Chad was here forever. Like I mean, Chad was like. He was here like when Nate started before he moved, I think, or something like that. Like
That's
he
so
knows
crazy.
everybody that ever in Nashville from like the 90s, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
And Chad would get like some random spots. So Chad was another person who had like a tumultuous yet like real relationship with Zanies, and he would occasionally get, and that's like the first time I ever got on there was showing at Chad showcases. So Chad's like old school, like
yeah.
we always call him the Godfather of the Nashville comedy scene.
Yeah.
To which he usually responds, "Yes, I'm the one who was too stupid not to leave."
He got out though. He's finally out.
Yeah, he's doing great.
See, I mean, but Ben, I feel like that's why I really wanted you on the show to talk about this, man. Is because I feel like I've seen some sets of yours where you talk about some pretty dark times in history, and you're able to pull the well. Have you thought about this out of it? You know, so like, do you find that tends to be your joke writing is to blend your worlds and be like, well, isn't this funny from history?
Yeah, you know, it's like funny because a lot of my best history, like here's the thing about teaching, right? Like when like so I thought when I first started doing stand up, I was like, man, I got a real advantage. I've been talking in front of people for years. My students laugh at me. That's the worst possible thing going to happen because it made me terribly overconfident. And you have to rethink it. You go, when you walk in front of a group of people and they're your professor, like, dude, you know what cover charge they've paid to be in your classroom? It's fucking insane. If you could get that every night of the week, you'd be run it for a year and leave. And then like there's some reverence, like you walk in the room an expert. Dude, when you're at a fucking open mic or even like a show when you're new, it's just like, even now, I mean, really, honestly, it's like, who are you? What are you doing?
Make
like,
us laugh now.
Yeah. So like the classes I teach, especially because they required classes for everybody, I'm like, you know, I do this. So it's like crowd work stuff that I learned in stand-up comedy. So like actually being a professor, being a teacher gave me a lot of like problems I had to overcome. And I still do. It was doing stand-up that made me a better teacher.
Okay.
Because crowd work, man. You're in front, you imagine like these students walk in and you just like, you know, you gotta like when something weird happens or something's off, you gotta acknowledge it on stage, right?
Yeah.
So like, you know, I walk in the first day and I'm all happy and they're just like, and I'm like, hey, how many of you guys, and it's, keep in mind, it's intro level history, like history, U.S. history 1, U.S. history
Everyone
2,
has to take this. This aren't history heads. Everyone's got to take it.
This semester I got 186 students. 2 of them are history majors. That's the most history majors I've had in forever.
God.
But I love it because like literally my job is to teach them why it matters. So like I can't rely on them bringing that interest. It's my job to actually spark it.
Yeah.
That's a great way to look at it.
You walk in the first day. I mean, all right, my philosophy is this. When I hear people say, especially people who teach history, these kids just don't care about history anymore. It's like, well, that's your fucking job. It sounds like you're not doing a very good job of it. But more than anything, like, why would they? If you're teaching like a 19 to 21-year-old, they became aware that they were alive like 4 to 5 years ago. And since then, they've just been trying to fuck. Like, you really think they're going to go, I wonder where the railroad came from? Like, they're not. They're going to be trying to fucking railroad themselves. Anyway, so.
That's a great way to look at it because I'm just now getting into like documentaries and learning about, you know, like we're on one now about the Ottoman Empire. I didn't know anything about the Ottoman
Drew.
Empire.
Really?
You know, so, dude, I told you this Jeopardy thing was going to be good for me. I got on Jeopardy, and now I'm like, I want to learn stuff now.
Wait, you got on Jeopardy?
No. I mean, on a Jeopardy kick, like to where just I watch it religiously.
Yeah, I text Drew and I'm like, hey, you want to grab a drink? And he's like, no, it's Jeopardy.
Jeopardy night,
man. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll just be by myself, I guess.
I grew up watching Jeopardy, man.
Same, and I just forgot it for so long, but now I'm hooked again, and it's got us in these. Netflix does a really good job with their documentaries of having scholars talk facts, and then also having actors in high production show you what happened.
Yeah, act it out.
Yeah,
and you know, just I feel a professional responsibility here to like point out that you know, frequently the dramatization comes first.
Oh, for sure. I know.
I know. My buddy Philippa was on one of those, and they were like, yeah, they kind of had the questions planned out, and like they brought me and they asked me these questions. They
know what
like,
how to lead
questions that like somebody who they weren't questions that someone who would like not like someone who took my Soviet history class could answer these questions.
Yeah,
but you know they just want the cut back and forth.
Yeah.
No, I love that style. And my friend, my co-host Bob Crawford just did a new series on John Quincy Adams where he does that, where he's got some of the best scholars in there, but then he has voice actors reading the characters.
Oh,
Which,
that's
by the
cool.
way, it's called Founding Son. Nick Offerman reads Thomas Jefferson. Sorry, Andrew Jackson. Nick
Oh,
Offerman reads
that's awesome.
Andrew Jackson.
Oh, that's so fun.
Patrick Warburton reads John Quincy Adams.
No way.
Yeah,
He's
Ken
one of my
Burns.
favorite voice
Ken
actors.
Burns reads somebody, which Ken Burns was all amped about because
I
Ken
didn't
Burns
know
is
Kim
like,
Burns
I
had
never
a
get to do the
nice
voices.
actor.
Yeah.
And then I play Joseph Story, and William Barrett Travis, who was at the Alamo.
That's
So, like,
awesome, dude.
basically,
Do they have any idea, like, when they were like casting this, was there kind of like those are very specific voices? And so were they like, oh, that's actually how John Quincy Adams sounded, or was it just like, let's just get these names and do this?
well, it's hard to know, right? So, like,
Yeah, right.
really, because you don't know what the accents were like. You got people commenting on them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, one of my favorite things is that, like, Thomas Jefferson apparently had a real high pitched voice.
Did he
And,
really?
like, well, like, he was like 6'3",
Oh wow.
and it's just like the era of the orator, right? So, like, if you have there's no PAs, right? There's no, like, you got to be able to speak loud.
Yeah, right.
So, like, you got like Patrick Henry, who could like just own a room, right? And then you got like Thomas Jefferson, like this incredible wordsmith, like, who apparently, if he couldn't speak, nobody could hear him, or he just sounded goofy. And so apparently that's one of the reasons people think he hated basically, like, Jefferson had something against people who could speak really loud.
Oh.
But the funnier part is Thomas Jefferson apparently talked in like a really high pitched voice, and his best friend was James Madison, who's like 5'3", 110 pounds, and these two dudes are just hanging out like over a foot difference with each other, and the tall one being like, "Hey James, you want to go over here and slay some people?" Like, that always cracked me up. Anyway, I got off topic.
No, I love it.
That's fine. I'll take that
so much.
I didn't know James Madison was that short.
Dude, James Madison was tiny, dude. He was like
Really?
110 pounds, soaking wet. He was a baby boy. He was little, tiny, baby, bugging
That's
a rug.
crazy.
Him sweepy, put him to bed. Bedtime boy James Madison.
Is that why he had a temper? Wasn't he like known for having a temper?
Probably just sweepy, or maybe hungry.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Oh man. So I love your joke. One of my favorite jokes of yours is, and you say you change it depending on where you are, but the making fun of Mississippi or Alabama, depending on where we're at. Because you did it in Alabama and you switched to Mississippi, and I thought I was like, fantastic. That was one of my favorite shows, man. For what, we had like 6 people there, me, you, MK, and CJ, and
dude,
Huntsville.
that was a blast, dude. That was so much fun. Down in Huntsville.
Yeah.
And actually, I originally wrote that joke about South Carolina when I was in.
Okay. As a true
North
North Carolinian,
I ever wrote, actually, and then I forgot about it.
Yeah.
Well,
you had that room.
I believe we should build a wall on our southern border because all these people are coming here who can't read or write English from places with no, with dirt roads and no schools. And I think we should build a wall and send them all back to Alabama or South Carolina, whatever state south of you.
Yeah.
I had to edit that joke for you for Third Coast when I was like doing some videos for them. That one came across, and that I was actually on that show as well. So I remember it happening because that girl kept yelling "Roll Tide" at you, and it was just like perfect to just transition into that joke.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, by the way. That was a great clip. But also, that show was amazing because all Bill told me, he goes, "Hey, you want to be on this show? It's a show where everybody gets really drunk." And I was like, "Sure." And I just thought,
okay,
well, I don't drink quite as much as I used to, so I better pace myself. I started drinking light beer at like 4 p.m. Like, I'm not kidding. I was at my kid's school for an afternoon thing, drinking light beer out of a cup, being like, "Boy, if I got to drink heavy later on, you got to lay the foundation.
Put the base down.
Yeah, right.
Walk over to Micah Wyman's house, like we were on the shows together because she lives right by the school. Caught a ride with her, drank mead at some meadery. Man, just started putting them down, and came to that place. I think I had a shot of whiskey. I was like cross-eyed. And then Bill walks in the room and he goes, "All right, guys." He's like, "Welcome." He's like, "So I'm going to put some shots out there on the stools." He goes, "Of course, none of you guys have to drink. It's really just the crowd drinking." And I was like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah,
I've been drinking.
Because didn't you do like, I think, did you do like 12,
the last times I drank was that
minutes?
Show.
Wasn't that the show?
Oh, yes, Will. Yes.
And Nonson's just losing his mind.
As he should have. I still feel bad about it.
Yeah, because Mark got on, and I think it was like you and me and Carl, Allison. Like, it was a good show. But I guess Carl went first. I hadn't gotten there yet. And like, Carl's being Carl. And like, so Mark got up and was like, that guy doing the Kid Rock joke, he's dead now. He's dead. He died like in the gutter outside. And then he like went after you and he went after like everybody. And it was madness. It was fun.
Yeah, no,
it was very fun.
When I first moved here, I used to love to like egg Mark on because Mark's so funny.
Yeah.
When I first met him, I'd be like, "Hey, look at your stupid hat!" Like just to get him to make fun of me.
Yeah,
because it was gonna be so mean, and I just wanted to hear it because it would just crack me up. But that was a legitimate like. I've been doing comedy for 10 years. That didn't fucking kind of go over. Like I was supposed to do 8. I think I got off like 12 and a half, right? And if you would have asked me, I would have been like, I'm probably at 6. That's how like
I had more time to go. What are you talking about?
But the set went well.
I was having a great set, but that's not how it works.
Yeah, that was one of those things too where like, so I was doing a show on Saturday and there's a new comic in town and he was doing well, but he was supposed to do 5 minutes and he ended up doing 10 because he just kept like going and like the host is like lighting him like, dude, no, that's not how it works. And like, the host was very nice to him, took him aside and was like, look, man, I know you're new. I know you were feeding into the crowd. You were booked to do 5 minutes. You do 5 minutes and you get out of there. You know what I mean? But again, like kind of like your set, it was like, even though it was like, we knew it was going along, whatever, the audience had no idea.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And also Bill Hillsman, who runs the show, he's not a stand-up, he's improv. If someone's going great in improv, you let it go. I'm like, I went over to him and apologized profusely once I realized what I had done. Like, not sobered up. Like, I was pretty drunk and I still was like, oh my God, what have I
messed
done?
This up. Yeah.
In real time. And he was like, nah, it's great, man. I was like, let him keep going. And I was like, that's cool, but the other comics not going to be happy.
They hate me.
Did Mark do that thing he does? Like, I went over by a minute once, and then I got off stage, and Mark was standing in the green room, and he goes, I want you to look at every single person here and apologize because you're wasting their time now.
That's the great thing about Marcus. He doesn't repeat jokes. So like he did that for you, and now he's gonna have an all new burn for anyone else that does
it. Else, yeah. And then I like first, and I didn't know him that well yet, so I was kind of like, I think he's being serious. So I just was like, sorry, everyone.
It's hard to read with Mark sometimes, but that's the fun thing.
Yeah.
Is he really mad at me?
Yeah. He's got a great poker face.
Yeah,
he does.
So how did your podcast come to be? I wanted to touch on that before while we still had you. How did the road to now? Because very successful podcast. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, man. Episode 272 just launched this week, which is insane. That doesn't even count side episodes we've done, things like that.
That's wild.
So we're you can find us on any podcast player. We're on Sirius XM's on the weekend on channel 124. We basically like, so I grew up with the Avett brothers, like Scott and Seth Avett. Like we went to high school together and stuff. Like I played bands with Seth for like from the time I was like seriously like I learned how to play bass and basically was in a band with Seth and another guy named Noah Warner for like.
Is a book coming out? Ben Sawyer's life at any point?
I mean, it may come out. I don't think anybody would buy it.
I mean, I would.
Basically, I'm like a less interesting Forrest Gump. You know what I'm saying? They're like, this is why Forrest Gump had to be.
Well, now we got a title, so
did all that stuff. You just be like, okay, he did some more. Oh, so circumstance did him a favor again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I didn't know you had some beef with Forrest Gump. This is great.
I don't know. I'll beat his ass. Anyway, I can't catch him.
He's very fast.
Yeah. So I grew up with Scott and Seth, and probably more importantly, Dane Honeycutt, who's one of my best friends, who is road manager for the Avett Brothers. Okay. And that band is pretty amazing because like when someone joins that band and like the crew, they don't leave.
Yeah.
Like, because that band they're good people. And so like
they take care of the
show up and like you're part of it and you like follow, like you make sure everything happens. Like they take care of folks. And I mean, all kinds of, I'll just say this, I can't give people's business out, but I will tell you that your mind will be blown by how much they have done, like even when they didn't have to, like during the pandemic and stuff like that, to try to keep everybody going, like at their own expense.
That's crazy.
Okay.
So anyway, so I grew up with them, and then I kind of knew Bob, but not really. But then when I was working on my PhD, Dane, they were playing like, this was 2006, I think it was. They were like in a small RV basically that was like run down, like the Scott, Seth, Bob, Joe, Dane, and then a white guy, Justin Glanville. Which, by the way, happy birthday, Justin, if you're listening.
Happy birthday.
But he just goes, hey, he was playing the Magic Stick. 120 people showed up, which to me was mind blowing because we were in Detroit, which is far away from home, and this many people would show up was just like insane.
Yeah.
And so it was like they were doing that, and I was getting my PhD and had gotten like a recruitment package to go to Michigan State, and I was just like, oh my God, we've all made it. And I was just like, I look back and go, what if that was the peak? Anyway, so me and Bob just like, Dane was like, you guys got to go sit down and talk. We talked for like an hour and a half, and then we were gonna, so we talk, man, like talking, no, like when you're doing the academic stuff, it can be kind of soul crushing sometimes. The academy has a lot of fixes it needs to do, but it's like, it's not always about what actually matters. It becomes about, fucking internal, comedy scene shit, right? Yeah. Like, so-and-so doesn't like me, or blah, or this isn't the trendy jokes right now. But Bob just loved history. So like him and John, my friend John Sullivan, were two people I could just call and talk about history. Like they weren't a part of this. They just loved it like I did. And we talked, and we were going to actually we were talking about starting a podcast in 2010 before like anybody had one.
Wow.
And then Bob's daughter got ill. She had pediatric cancer. And so that's a whole another, years of treatment and just a life shaking situation. And so, he was like off the road with the band for a couple of years. And anyway, long story short, in 2016, he just calls me up and goes, hey, he goes, I'm gonna be in Nashville playing Bridgestone like in a month. He's like, I think we should start the podcast. And so we just met up in the basement of Bridgestone Arena, recorded the first one.
No way.
Thought we recorded the first one, then realized nobody had pushed record.
Perfect.
So recorded it again. And that summer I like flew all over the country and met them places because we didn't know how to do, like, there wasn't like a good Zoom network to do things.
Yeah.
Right.
Flew all over the place and just like Bob had all these miles like from being in a touring band. So he would just like fly me to Portland. I'd meet him there. We'd interview like the city historian of Portland.
That's fantastic.
They were playing there. We met up with John Hickenlooper, who was the governor and now is the senator from Colorado. He just hung out there. And so, yeah, that's how it all started.
I mean, that's one of the best podcast origin stories I've ever heard. That's for sure.
And there's no video yet, right?
Huh?
And there's no video, right? Like you're just doing straight audio at this point, right? It's like the early podcasting stuff.
Yeah. So we had some videos from time to time. Like we'd get, but rare. Like it's to this day, the entire podcast is like, we're not a part of a network or anything. It's all independent. So it's me, Bob, and Gary Fletcher, who's our producer.
Yeah.
And so like it's just adding extra things, and we've never been driven by money to do it. It does make some money, and it has made good money at times, but like it's not. It's really, we both have careers that I think me and Bob both have our dream jobs.
Right.
Like as a first job. This is what teaching at a place like MTSU is what I always wanted to do. Like from the time I realized I didn't want to teach high school, I wanted to be a professor.
Yeah.
I love teaching in places like MTSU where my people are, the people that I get, right?
Yeah.
I can serve in a way that I can't serve other people. I know what it's like to be from a family where nobody went to college. I know what it's like to be a kid from the country who doesn't feel like maybe he belongs there.
Yeah.
Right. So like you find those people, you pull them up, and that's what I love to do. Right. Like Bob is this incredible musician. Like we get to do those things. So, to a certain extent, we've been able to always it's got to make money because the one person in this factor is Gary Fletcher, who's our associate producer, which is a paid position. So we got to pay him.
Got to pay them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of the extra stuff that probably if we had been part of a network, we would have done, we never did or haven't. Who knows, man? Year 7 right now. Year 7. It's our 7th anniversary.
Can only keep growing.
Well.
So what's the lesson of this podcast so far, folks?
Stay independent.
No, it's be friends with people who are better than you.
That's why I got Drew.
Thanks.
I'm just gonna be riding Drew's coattails and as long as I can.
I hope there's coattails to ride, my friend.
Well, I'm very light, so you don't even know I'm back there.
Yeah.
You're getting emails from me in 6 years like, hey, my name is Ben Sawyer. You might remember me. I was on your podcast one time. I de facto was described as one of your funny friends. So anyway.
Let's keep speaking this into existence. Yes, please. Please. I'm a big fan of that.
I do love the idea of you emailing Drew. Like, do you remember me?
Ben, I talked to you last week. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I email him. We wrapped this podcast. And I email him, hi, my name is Ben Sawyer. I don't know if you remember me. But
we 4th of July together. We'll always be connected.
That's right. We did 4th of July together. We're gonna do that again this year.
Oh, where'd you 4th of July?
Dude, we
His
blocked the
neighborhood.
street down.
It's a great time. You got to go
remarkably
with us.
easy.
Who
you
was
guys-
it last year? Me and Kaylee. You were there for a little bit, weren't you, Will? Or was it Evan?
At your place?
Evan came by, I think.
No, I don't think it was me.
Okay. Yeah, it was me, Laura, Kaylee, Evan.
Yeah, it was fun. I was playing. I apologize. I was a bad host because I was playing slip and slide kickball across the street.
We were
I was not there for this.
we were in the crowd, so don't apologize. That was part of the entertainment.
Yeah,
We had beautiful left field out seats. It was great.
Where was this? What's happening?
No, I'm talking. They had set it up in a front yard. We were just hanging out.
I was like, wait, you're playing slip and slide kickball at like South Stadium?
No, they just had it set up in the neighbor's front yard.
No, yeah. So our neighbors across the street, Rod and Shermel, are like amazing, and they have this like the most all-American family you've ever met in your life. Like they're just like, I want to be like Gerard's only like 4 years older than me. I want to be him when I grow up.
Okay, yeah, I got it. Yeah.
He's just living the dream. He's got like a '63 Mercury, like a '78 Monte Carlo, like the greatest family of all time. But they started an outdoor entertainment business, like bounce houses and all this stuff. And so for the July 4th party, we got the streets shut down, and they just decked out like 4 houses worth of yards with all their stuff. It was amazing.
Oh, that's great. I could do a good bounce house.
So the kids are having a good time. They're entertained, so the adults can just hang out. It's great.
That's right. Kids are running around back drinking beer. I'm acting like I don't see it.
Yeah. That's 4th of July.
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was our high school graduation parties. Was like which house you had to like know which house to go to if you wanted to drink beer.
Yeah.
Like which parents were like just like the parents were so drunk they didn't even notice you were doing it.
Or so the parents that just were never home. We had too many of those friends.
Yeah,
we had those friends that like it's the weekend. We got a lake house that's not here. Y'all do what you want.
Yeah, that was like I look back on that and I'm like, my kid's he's Solomon. He's 8, right? He's a good, honest kid. He has an unfair burden on him from the fact that I was a shithead when I was in high school. I mean, I would sneak out of the house on weeknights, like, for no reason,
just because.
Go do all kinds of crazy shit, like on the side. And like my son's a good kid, but like I'm watching him like a hawk, and he does.
I know the signs, buddy.
But yeah, as you get older and you go, I thought those parents were cool for letting us do that stuff, and you're like, how did their kids turn out? Probably still there.
Yeah, is it Brandon has the joke about like calling their parents by the first name, and like that's how you know what kind of household it is, where it's where it's like, listen, Debbie, I'm going out. Yeah.
I had the friends with the chill parents, but I never had anybody that was that chill. It was always mom and dad to everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I might say that it might have been my parents, my mom and my stepdad. I don't even know. Basically, they slept with the TV and the lights on, and they slept hard. And I don't know how they slept through
some of the stuff
me on a Friday night having 50 people over, drinking heavily in the basement and backyard. But boy, they did.
Boy, they did.
And here's the craziest thing. If my mom had known we were doing it, she would have been upset.
So she really didn't turn a blind eye. They really didn't know.
I mean, I think she kind of did, but I mean, if you are letting your kid have 50 people over on a Friday night and you're blaring like TV news while you sleep so loud that you can't hear the 50 people outside, might be less of a blind eye and more of a fucking deaf ear.
Yeah, don't want to know.
Yeah.
No,
that turned out okay.
Yeah. Look at you.
Seems like it's going all right.
Podcaster. Well, Ben, where can everyone follow you at?
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Sawyer Comedy. All my dates are sawyercomedy.com. And the road to now is theroadtonow.com. And we're on all podcast players. Check that out. And we've got, again, if you want to go back, if you guys like comedy, go back and listen to the episode that we did with Pat Riley. It's called
Not the Coach.
Not the Coach. You're right. It's called Stand Up Comedy in Los Angeles. It is. I mean, honestly,
I am going to listen to that. Yeah.
It's a history. It's a history of the scene out there and a sociology of it. And
That's
so
awesome.
There you go. That's me. That's Ben Sawyer. And man, we could keep going, but I think Everyone's tired of me.
Well, we are not, but we are time constrained to an hour, so we have reached that hour. But we appreciate you being here. And
thank you for having me.
We're definitely going to earmark you to come back because I feel like you got so many more stories to tell.
I know. It's like the Nashville historian.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm institutional memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, an hour talking. That's like, it's almost like that's my job, is for me to talk and no one else gets to talk for an hour at a time.
I'm happy to just sit here and smile,
right?
And absorb information.
Yeah, I do feel like I learned something from you every time we talk, so it is nice.
I know. That's what I was gonna say right up top. Is like, that's a funny thing about you is like I learn a little bit more every single time. Like I think the last time I saw you, I was outside Bowery Vault, and that's the first time I heard about you living in Moscow, and I was like, what? And just like as casual as you can as say that.
Yeah, so I was in Russia.
Yeah,
because it's like weird. It's weird because like you don't want people to be like, he's like, but it's just like, I was living in Michigan at the time, right? You go I was like, I was living in Mount Pleasant at the time, and you just go like, I lived 2 years in Moscow, so you got, it matters. You don't want to be like, you're not just gonna be like, where I could have been anywhere whenever this giant dude wanted to arm wrestle me, but like it matters that it's in Russia.
Yeah. Because what were you telling me? Weren't you saying like that was when there was like an uprising and you like kept playing Xbox or something to show them that you were home?
Oh, that was whenever there was a protest against, because Putin, he had those 2 terms in office, and the Russian Constitution said you could only have 2 consecutive terms, and everyone was like, he's going to change the Constitution, and he went. This was like 2008. He goes, I'm not changing the Constitution. I'm going to step down and I'll just be the prime minister for 4 years. And then they transferred all the powers of the presidency over to the prime minister.
Yeah.
And 4 years later, he came back and ran again. So people were in the streets protesting that.
Right.
And one of the classic Russian ruler moves is to say that it's not really Russians doing something like that. It's foreigners. And so Hillary Clinton was the Department of State, not a hard person to make a bad guy. And he says, part of this is not just the Russian people. It's the U.S. State Department, Hillary Clinton, and their so-called foreign scholars on the ground, which I was on a Fulbright grant for the Department of State at that time.
Yeah.
I was one of the, me and like a dozen of my friends were blamed for the corruption of the entire Russian government, infuriating the middle class of Moscow. So I knew people that were like, are you gonna go out there and see this, man? This is part of history. And I was like, I ain't gonna fucking be out there. I'm gonna be at home I was renting a room from a Russian landlord. I'm gonna be there with my door open playing StarCraft on my computer, listening to Dinosaur Jr., where he can see that I am no earbuds in or anything. I am not a part of it.
Right here.
Not a part of it at all.
Not controlling any avatars.
Yeah. And then cut to 15 years later, and you're blowing the light at Third Coast, getting yelled at by Mark in the back.
Who would have thought that I could be here?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, Ben, thank you so much, man. We're definitely gonna have you back because I want to hear more Russian Moscow stories for sure.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go check out Ben's shows. You got Smokers Abbey on Saturday nights. You got Yazoo Brewing first Friday of the month at Yazoo Brewing. So yeah, Ben, thank you so much.
No
shout out.
Can I add here that you're coming up? Like, we got Drew Harrison headlining one of the Yazoo shows coming up.
Oh, hell yeah, Drew.
Yeah, July. What's up?
Drew Lie.
Oh, last time we did Yazoo together, that was when that bird was there, but you were the only one that saw it.
Oh, yeah.
And then you started laughing. Did you notice this? This bird like kind of flew by, but literally Drew was the only person that saw it besides me in the back. So Drew starts laughing at the bird on stage, and I could see he was like about to comment on it, but didn't say anything. So now Drew's just like giggling at himself on stage. The audience is like, "What is happening right now?" It was just this little bird.
Because I just talked about being high, so I was like, "Well, now I can't let him know I'm just seeing birds on stage." Now.
That's why I knew you were giggling, because you just were like, I could see you're about to be like, "You see that bird?" And everyone's gonna be like, "No."
I'm just like, all right, man. Well, here we go. Yeah, no, that's a great room, man. I have such fun every time I go there. We made our own goo clusters last time we were there. So, I mean, they always have cool events. So, shout out to Yazoo Brewing. Is it Madison? Is that where it's technically?
It's in Madison, yeah. So it's right on the river. It's beautiful out there, man.
It is beautiful. And they got their own little like cul-de-sac. It's awesome. But yeah, shout out to Project Nerd for having us. Go check out all their great content. Check out Mr. Will Abeles on the road, and check out drewharrisoncomedy.com for everything I got coming up. And we will see you next time.
Did Project Nerd make that?